It is July 29th, 2023. It's time for a new episode of Relentless Grappling, and this week we are going to talk about Khamzat Chimaev winning the welterweight championship at UFC 294. Let us get it! Hi, I'm your host. As always, this event was historic for two major reasons. One, the first title fight to headline a UFC event in Abu Dhabi. That is a big deal because the UFC has been working hard to grow the sport of MMA in that region. And there were over 16,000 people in attendance. It was a live gate of over $7 million, which is one of the top 5 in UFC history. And we got some new hardware unveiled. Check out the new belt. It's pretty sick. And then no. 2. The performance of Khamzat Chimaev. He earned the nickname Boars during his time in the Russian military, where he would cut through multiple opponents very quickly. And if you look up the word Boars, it means ferocious or savage. And man, did he deliver on that nickname in his championship performance. He completely dominated Gilbert Burns in all facets of the game. Khamzat comes into the fight as the betting favorite, but I will say that most people thought that Gilbert Burns would be able to outstrike him and outgrapple him. But from the opening bell, Khamzat came out aggressive, firing off multiple takedowns and forcing Gilbert to use all of his defensive tools to stuff them. And that led to Gilbert getting an early warning from Herb Dean for excessive holding. And then Khamzat got another takedown and started working in side control. They came back to standing, and they were separated by the ref. Then they went back to the clinch. And Khamzat landed a brutal knee that dropped Gilbert. He followed up with some punches, and Gilbert was hurt badly. It looked like the fight might be over, but somehow he was able to make it to the end of the round. Now, this first round was close. I had it 10-9, but many people had it 10-8. It didn't really matter because Khamzat came out just as aggressive in the second round. He shot for a single leg and stuffed it, but then came right back with a double leg that sent both of them to the mat. He took the back and was fishing for a rear naked choke, and although Gilbert defended well, he was having a tough time getting anything going offensively. Khamzat was so relentless in his pressure that Gilbert had no room to operate. He would throw wild haymakers that missed, and that left him even more vulnerable to the dangerous striking of Khamzat. So he would shoot for another takedown. This time, he stuffed it. But then Khamzat hit him with an uppercut and a straight right hand. It was over. Gilbert goes to sleep. It only took 1 minute and 54 seconds in the second round for Khamzat to secure the finish. This is why Khamzat Chimaev is arguably the most exciting prospect since Conor McGregor. Not only does he have a killer instinct and the ability to finish the fight in any round, but he also talks a lot of trash and does it in multiple languages. Just listen to this post-fight interview. I am the king of Abu Dhabi. Who's next? I want to fight everyone. I am going to break this belt. If you want to see me fight, come to my city, come to Sweden or Russia. I don't give a fuck. I'll crush everyone. This guy gets it. On to the grappling breakdown. Now, in the first round, Khamzat came out swinging and he tried to land a spinning kick early. But what we noticed is that when he did that, Gilbert was able to time his counterpunch. So when Chimaev came back to the kick in the second round, Gilbert was ready for it. And that's why it was important for Khamzat to mix it up. After he stuffed the first takedown attempt, he actually faked the same move and tricked Gilbert, and ended up taking him down and ending up in side control. The key to Khamzat's success in the takedown department was his level change. He would drop down and explode off of that back leg. He used this low-level change initially to take Gilbert down in the first round, and then he used a slightly different variation of it in the second round to set up his finishing take. What makes both of these takedowns so effective is the fact that Khamzat drops so low, it almost looks like he's going to do a low single leg, but instead he ends up taking the double. Once he gets that double, he drives his hips through in a straight line and tries to drive Gilbert over his own feet. By doing this, he minimizes the amount of time that Gilbert has to react and defend against it. And that's why he has been so successful in taking down high-level opponents like Gilbert Burns and Paulo Costa. As far as his top game goes, he did a great job of isolating the arm, but he wasn't as successful with the rear naked chokes that he was attempting. When he originally took the back in the second round, he had a tough time getting the hooks in because Gilbert was defending well with those elbows. And then once he did get the hooks in, he got a little too cute with the choke. And when he tried to switch from the front choke to the rear naked choke, Gilbert was able to defend well and escape. But what I think Khamzat lacked in experience in that situation, he made up for with heart and conditioning. Because after he escaped from the bottom, he immediately started throwing huge hammer fists until Gilbert got back to his feet. And that was the turning point in the fight. Those hammer fists rocked Gilbert and prevented him from gaining any momentum from being on the bottom. One area of the fight that a lot of people were curious about was the stand-up. Everyone expected Khamzat to be able to strike with Gilbert, but no one was sure how it would go. We didn't get much of an answer because Gilbert never really let his hands go. In the first round, he was way too cautious. And in the second round, he was trying to defend the takedown so much that he had no opportunity to strike. But when Gilbert did strike, he did have success. There were several times where he landed a punch that backed Khamzat up, and that was the result of Khamzat lunging in with wild swings. If there's anything Khamzat needs to work on moving forward, it's his boxing technique. He's a raw striker and he has power in his hands, but he needs to be more technical. And that will prevent him from gassing himself and leaving himself vulnerable to a counterpunch like we saw happen here. Finally, the last thing we need to talk about is Gilbert Burns' gas tank. Man, he has an incredible engine. He can go 5 rounds without gassing. We've seen it before. But for some reason, he seemed to have nothing in the second round, and it was a big difference from the Gilbert Burns that we're used to seeing. We could be looking at the effects of the weight cut, but I don't think that was it. I think it was a game plan. You have to realize that going into this fight, Gilbert Burns had never been in a 5-round championship fight before, and he was facing the most ferocious fighter that the UFC has ever seen. And the team probably knew that in order for Gilbert to win the fight, he was going to have to be extremely conservative and try to out-decision Khamzat, and that's what he did. He took the first round, but that left him with nothing in the tank for the second round. Now, whether you agree with that game plan or not doesn't matter because Khamzat won, and that's why he's the new welterweight champion of the world. Let's give it up for him. That is it for this episode of Relentless Grappling. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel because we put out episodes every Wednesday. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media and join our group. Until the next video, keep grappling.